Hello guys, it's me, and today I'm going to be showing you around FireAlpaca. So, when you open up the program, it's going to look something like this. And you can't really do anything except change brush control, which still doesn't do anything. So, I think it's safe to say that you can't do anything right now. That's because we need a canvas. So, one way to do it is by going to File, New, or by doing Command or Control N. And you can play around with the sizes. I prefer width 3000, height 2000 pixels, but you can change it to inches or centimeters or anything you want. You can reverse the height and width, but you don't have to worry about most other things here. So you can go ahead and click OK. And here we have our canvas. This might be a little overwhelming, but that's okay because I'm going to take you through it step by step. So, this place is where you change the color. And you can find a color you like. This is where you change the color. This is where you change how light it is, how dark it is. You can make it just gray. And this is called your primary color. And the white back there is your secondary color. So when you click on this, it switches primary and secondary. So now, this white is your primary, and the gray is your secondary, which will come in handy later. So red and blue are your primary and secondary colors. So right now, red is the primary color, and you can't tell, but when I select the blue, see how there's this red square, which means it's the primary color. And you can draw. And then when you want red, you can select red and you can draw with that too. Now, if you're using a mouse, like I am right now, your hand might be a little unstable. So you might want these stabilizer settings, and it goes up to 40, that's the max. It depends how in detail you want to go. If you're doing like a broad shape that's not so specific, you might want higher stabilizer settings, because the higher the stabilizer, the more smooth it is. It's not as rough. But if I show you without stabilizer settings, one jerk of the hand can do that, and it can make it all spiky. And I'm doing Control Z or Command Z, whichever one you're on right now, to undo all of these so you can see better. But see here, you can have very jerky movements, but here, it's the same thing, but a lot less jerky. And if you go all the way to 40, there's no jerking at all. So it's kind of like a progression. This to this to this. That's basically the stabilizer difference. Okay. You have eraser. So say that you're drawing something, right? And you say, whoops, I wanted to connect, but that doesn't look good. But I don't want to do the whole figure 8 all over again. You can use the eraser. And I recommend the eraser be bigger than the pen itself, because it's a lot easier to erase with it. So usually 30 is a good size with a pen of 10. And you can just erase, and you can make it much more seamless, you know? And then if you want a really chunky job, you can do like 50 or even 100. And you see, even 100 is not that big, so if you want like a really chunky job, you can go 1,000, but that's like if you want to like erase the whole page or something, or like redo everything. You have the pixel colorer, which you might not be able to tell, but right now it's coloring all these pixels. And this is a good time to talk about the Navigator over here. So the Navigator, you can zoom in up to where you can see pixels, and you can see more clearly that blue is coloring all of these pixels. It's coloring all these pixels blue because blue is our primary color right now. If we wanted them red, we can switch red to a primary color. So that's the pixel colorer. But, oops. The Navigator, you can zoom in and zoom out. And say you're here and you're like, hey, I want to get back to where I was. You can do this little magnifying glass. And you can rotate your canvas. And you see here the degree is changing. You can also manually change it. You can set it back with this. And you can rotate it the other way. Set it back. You can flip your canvas. And that's basically it for Navigator. And this tool moves everything that we made here, everything that we drew. So say we draw like a smiley face or something. This will actually move the smiley face up on the canvas and everything else in the layer, which I'll get to later. Another tool is the fill bucket. So if you want something inside the face to be red, then you can use the fill bucket. And now he has a red face with a blue outline. You also have the gradient tool, which goes from the primary color to the secondary color. And when you make it really long, it's a very gradual change. But when you do it really short, it's barely any gradient at all. A little longer, it's a little more gradient. A little longer is more. So each end of it is basically where the gradient stops. See a lot more gradient. And whatever angle you put it at is where the gradient will go. See? Anything you want. Left to right, top to bottom, diagonally. And you can erase it with this chunky job eraser. Okay. You have the text tool. Where you can write something. And you can change the font here. And you can see it change while you make the edits. So you can change the size to, I don't know, something super small. And if you want to keep editing it, you can double click it. You can make it bold. You can make it bigger. And you can make it pixels or PT. So basically, if you make it 18 pixels, it becomes a lot smaller. You can also spam this button to make it bigger. And let's just do like 300. You can make it italic. You can make it strike through. And let's say, I'm just typing nonsense words right now. So you can do left align, center align, right align. And the edge width, what you can do is you can have an edge color. It's kind of like a border around the word. So you can say, well, I'll give you a demonstration, 20 pixels. And you see it has this outline now with this color. And you can change it around here. And you can change the text color here. You can make it darker. Boom, text. And the only thing you can do with text is move it around. And well, this is a good time to talk about layers. So you can change the opacity of a layer, which right now we have this layer selected. You can change the opacity, which makes it so more see-through. So if we were to go to layer 1 and draw a big fat X, even though this layer, when 100% opacity, it goes over layer 1, see? But if you change the opacity, you can still see under it. Right, so you can hide a layer by clicking these buttons. You can edit a layer by clicking this here. And you can rename a layer by double clicking it and saying X layer or whatever. You can add a new layer by clicking this, and you can delete a layer by clicking that, and you can make a folder, so you can have folder, and you can put the layers in a folder. You can basically categorize things like that, and you can also put a folder in a folder, which is cool. And you can delete folders the same way like that. And once you delete a folder, it deletes everything inside. So just warning, fair warning. And you can't have no layers, so it won't allow you to delete this. And you can hide everything in a folder. And you can take things out of a folder. And basically, when you're on a layer, everything you do only happens to that layer. So let's make another layer and draw a design on it. Let's draw this, whatever. I'm just scribbling something. And I go to the X layer. When I erase, it doesn't erase the other layer. It only erases the X layer, which can be very useful. And I'll show you some applications in another video. And that's layer. So you can use this eyedropper tool to get certain colors. So if we lost this color, for example, but it's still here, we can get the eyedropper and get it back. You can also add a color to a palette. So you can click add color, and it takes your primary color, and you can say ocean blue, whatever, right? And here it appears in the palette. And I have a lot of other colors that I frequently use, so I add it to my palette because your palette, just like a backpack and Scratch, it translates over to other projects. So if I made a new project, this is completely separate, the palette is still there. So I can take this color, boom. So that's eyedropper and palette. And the hand tool, you can move things around and zoom in. And you can move the canvas around. There. Brush control, I think I already showed you, but you can change the size of the brush. You can make it thicker. And thicker. And thicker. And thicker. Yeah. Okay. And now I'm going to show you these things. So let's change this back to 15. So brush, there are some really cool things that you can find in brush. So one is pen fade in and out. So this is normal line, fade in and out. Normal line, fade in and out. Okay. Then you have your eraser here. It's the same thing as this, except it's smaller. You have airbrush. Oops. You have your airbrush, which is kind of like a very light thing. And when you go over it, it makes it darker. And another airbrush that's just thicker, same thing but thicker. You have watercolor, which is very bold, but when it crosses a different color, it blends them. And also, when you keep layering it, it gets more and more its own color. So that's one stroke, two strokes. See, it's getting bluer and bluer and bluer. The blur, this is one of the special ones that acts on others. So if I have a really defined line, let's go to pencil. And I have this really intricate shape. Right, very specific. Whatever. What I can do with the blur is I can make it less defined. I'm blurring a line, so it's kind of fuzzy. Smudge. It's kind of like fluffing something in a baking. I think it's called, no, feathering. You have FireAlpaca, which is honestly my favorite one. It's just the FireAlpaca logo. And then FireAlpaca 2, which is basically the same thing, but it's kind of like those lottery tickets, how you scratch them and you uncover them. So you can basically make a whole field with them. Leaf is really cool. It's like a pile of leaves. You have leaf 2, and I'm just gonna flower, which is kind of the same idea, but it leaves flowers. As you go over it, it gets more dense with flowers. More dense, more flowers! Yeah, anyway. Particle. And same thing with flowers and leaves. It gets more dense as you go over it again. Flat brush, which leaves like, it's kind of like nail, but like, not really. Stars. Same idea. You make it thick, or thin. Star 2. They're different colored. Star 3. They have different shapes, kind of. Stalk. Kind of a cool vine. Stalk 2. These are some pretty cool ones. And then you have the arrow. So these two kind of look like they could be used on like a baseball or something. It reminds me of that. This is cool. Like I could definitely envision it on like a temple of some sort. And this is probably my favorite one. All the FireAlpacas. Oh, they're so cute. Got fluffy. Oops. Oh, symmetry. Symmetry. Okay. I must show you this. This is amazing. Okay. So you can have a symmetrical shape on two sides, which is really cool. You can have a symmetry thing that it's multiple, and there, look, a flower. It's basically the same thing but more sides. It's so cool. Oops. You have symmetry rotate 2, which basically gives it another one, and you can make some really cool shapes. If you hold command or sometimes control, you will see this, and when you click, that sets the center for the symmetry. I can do this, so it works as usual. But what I can also do is I can do this. So it doesn't have to start in the middle. And if you want to, you can lead it to the middle, but you don't have to. You can just do circles on the outside if you want. And same thing with the symmetry rotate 2, you can hold command. And it's the same idea for symmetry. If you hold command, this is basically a invisible axis, so you can draw what you want. Yeah. You have thorns, like a pile of thorns. And notice how all of these things, well, first of all, it gets denser as you keep going over them, but also it's all in the same color, see? So you can change the color of them too. Polka dots. And this, basically a straight line in the direction you're going. You can have some cool circles this way. It's cool. So, okay. You can free draw, freehand, which I do for most of mine. You can draw a line, and it's kind of like Scratch, except when you hold shift, it doesn't do anything. And a polyline, you don't even have to hold it. You just click. Like when you want there to be a point there, you just click, 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 and then you just have to keep clicking it. That's polyline. You have polygon. Where basically all the points are already connected, but you can basically choose how many lines there are. And it's pretty cool. I have to remember where the start is. There. You have, and if you want to escape, you just press escape. Escape. Okay, this is a good example. Now, everything's gone. What do I do, right? You can go to Window, and, well, they just were hiding, but what you can do is if you accidentally delete them, everything you need is right here. Navigator, layer, brush control, palette, color, and I'll show you the other ones too. After I'm done with these, you can make a rectangle, you can make an ellipse, which is basically like an oval kind of thing. Oh, I was selecting curve, never mind. Ellipse, it's kind of an oval thing. And the other one was curve. And let's undo this and show you what the recipes are. So you have brush preview. Basically, it basically just shows you the brush. You have reference, which I'll show you some applications of. Brush size, basically it's the same thing as brush control, but you have predetermined size. X out of this. So reference is when you want to copy something. So say I want to draw, I don't know, something, and what you can do is you can click new, this button over here, this. For whatever reason, I just want to draw this, right? So I can have this in a reference page, and then I can draw alongside it, so I can go like this, and I can go like, so you don't have to keep switching tabs. Pretty cool. Yeah. That's reference. And the last thing, I just predetermined the setup myself. So you can click this button to unattach it, and it turns into a different window. And you can shrink it, and you can put it back. Oops. And what you can also do is you can take it out manually, and when you do it over, you can switch like different tabs, but I don't really like that. But I just didn't think that these were necessary because brush preview I already had in brush control. Reference I do use, but not all the time. You can also delete it. And brush size is also just brush control, so I didn't think I need any of those. And if you accidentally X out of one of these, it's like, hey, where'd it go? You can always do window, brush, or whatever you wanted, and it'll just appear there again. And if it appears like this, well, big deal. Just plop it back in. And that's going to do it for my tour of FireAlpaca, but I will be showing you an example and be showing you some of the tools in real practice. So stay tuned and stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.